My name is Tala. I was born in Susa, but for most of my life, I served in the palace of Babylon. I was one of the cupbearers, the one who poured wine for the king's closest companions. And so I saw things that no one else saw. I watched him laugh. I watched him rage. And I was there when the greatest conqueror the world has ever known laid down his sword for the last time. Let me tell you how Alexander died. The year was 323 before your calendar. Alexander had returned to Babylon after years of marching across deserts and mountains, from Greece all the way to India. He was not yet 33 years old, but his body was scarred from arrows, stones, and even a shattered lung. Still, his eyes burned like fire. He was already planning new wars, Arabia, Carthage, the ends of the earth. We all thought he was a god. But gods do not sweat, and Alexander sweated. He drank heavily, as all Macedonians did, but in those last months, the drinking grew fiercer. There were long banquets that lasted from sunset until dawn. I stood in the corner with my pitcher, watching. He would call out for more wine, mixing it stronger than before. Sometimes I saw pain flash across his face, but he would wave it away with a laugh. Then came the feast at the house of Medius, one of his generals. It was the 2nd of June, or what you would call June. The air in Babylon was thick and heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. Alexander drank from a great cup, toasting each companion. I remember filling the cup myself. It was his favorite wine, strong and dark. He drank, and then he stopped. His face went pale. He let out a small cry and pressed his hand to his stomach. For a moment, I thought he had simply drunk too much. I had seen that before. But this was different. He rose from his couch, stumbled, and 2 of his bodyguards had to catch him. As he was led away, he looked back at the table with an expression I had never seen on him: confusion. That night, the fever began. The next morning, we heard he could not rise. I brought him water myself. He was lying on a low bed, covered in a thin sheet, sweating so much that the linen stuck to his skin. He tried to smile at me. "Tala," he whispered, "the wine was too strong." I wanted to believe that was all. For 12 days, the fever burned. Day after day, his closest generals, Perdiccas, Ptolemy, Seleucus, stood outside his room, whispering. Some of them argued. I heard the word pharmacon, poison. Fingers were pointed at Antipater's family, at Medius, even at the cupbearers. I was terrified. I had poured every cup myself. If someone had poisoned him, they had done it with my hands. But the physicians said it was no poison. They said it was the fever that had been building in him for years from his wounds, from the endless drinking, from the crushing weight of an empire he had forced into existence. They bled him, they gave him potions, they prayed to every god they knew. Nothing helped. On the 11th day, he lost his voice. We could only see his lips move. The soldiers who had been camped outside the palace walls demanded to see him. The generals relented. One by one, thousands of them filed past his bed. He could not speak, but he raised his head slightly and looked at each man with his eyes. There were tears on their faces. I had seen those same men laugh as they tore down cities. Now they wept like children. On the evening of the 12th day, the fever rose so high that the sheets felt hot to the touch. I was kneeling beside the bed, changing the cool cloth on his forehead. His eyes were open, but they seemed to be looking at something far away, beyond the ceiling, beyond the stars. His breathing became shallow. The generals gathered around. One of them asked, "To whom do you leave the kingdom?" Alexander barely moved his lips. He spoke one word, "Krateroi." It meant "to the strongest." Or perhaps he was trying to say the name Crateros, his most trusted general. No one could agree. And then, with a sound like wind passing through dry leaves, he stopped breathing. The room fell so still that I could hear the torches crackle. Then Perdiccas took the royal ring from Alexander's finger and placed it on his own. No one objected. Everyone was too stunned. The man who had conquered the world was gone, and no one knew what to do. I stayed there for a long time after they left. I poured water from my pitcher onto the ground, a small offering, the only thing I could give. He had not been a gentle man. He had killed thousands, burned cities, demanded worship like a god. But he had also called me by my name when I was just a servant. And in his final days, when he was too weak to command armies, he was simply a man burning from the inside. They say the gods took him. They say poison took him. I say it was the world he had built, too vast, too heavy, too much for any mortal frame. Alexander the Great dreamed of uniting all peoples under one rule. In the end, he could not even unite his own generals. They divided his empire among themselves before his body had grown cold. But here is what I remember most. After his death, when they prepared his body for the long journey to Macedon, they placed his armor beside him. On the chest plate was a tiny dent from an arrow he had taken years before in India. He had survived that wound. He had survived so much. He just could not survive himself.